Now we move to the Escherichia coli, or E. coli. This is the most prevalent enteric bacillus, and it's a common aerobic bacterium in your gut, and there are 150 strains. Um, the pathogenic strains, or the pathotypes of E. coli, are either enterohemorrhagic, which causes hemorrhagic syndrome and kidney disease, or enterotoxigenic, which causes severe diarrhea, and it has fimbriae, and because of producing these toxins, it stimulates secretion and fluid loss. We also have the enteroinvasive, which causes inflammatory disease of the large intestine. Enteropathogenic is causes the wasting from infantile diarrhea. Enteroaggregative is a cause of pediatric diarrhea, and diffusely adherent is also a minor cause of the pediatric diarrhea. Mostly transmitted exclusively among humans. The infantile diarrhea is the greatest cause of mortality among babies. It causes around 70% of travelers' diarrhea and 50 to 80% of UTIs. You can use over-the-counter drugs like Imodium or Kaolin that slow your gut motility. And then you can use Pepto-Bismol that's more effective, that counteracts the enterotoxin, and it has an antimicrobial effect. As far as food infections, O157H7 is enterohemorrhagic strain that was responsible for infections from fast food hamburgers in 1982. And the reservoir was the cattle intestine. And the virulence is because of a cell wall receptor that fuses with the host cell membrane, and that creates a direct port for the bacteria to secrete toxin, and the toxin enters the host cell and disrupts protein synthesis and causes death and shedding of the intestinal cells. And our FDA, or our USDA, requires that all fresh meat and poultry have warning products about safe handling, or warning labels about safe handling. Other coliforms, most are opportunistic, drug-resistant, and they can infect any organ. Klebsiella pneumoniae is a normal inhabitant of your respiratory tract. It has a large capsule. It causes nosocomial pneumonia, meningitis, bacteremia, wound infections, and UTIs. Enterobacter causes UTIs and infections in surgical wounds. Citrobacter is opportunistic, and it causes UTIs and bacteremia. Serratia marcescens produces a red pigment, causes pneumonia, causes infections and burns and wounds, and septicemia and meningitis. And you see the serratia there that makes the red pigment. Now the non-coliform lactose negative enterics, you see the opportunist there are the Proteus morganella and Providencia, and the true enteric pathogens Salmonella and Shigella, or Shigella. Now the Proteus and its relatives are usually found in soil and manure and sewage and polluted water. They are involved in UTIs, wound infections, pneumonia, infant diarrhea, septicemia. And the Morganella, Morgani, and Providencia are involved in the same kinds of things. The true enteric pathogens have well-developed virulence factors. They are primary pathogens. They are not normal human flora. The Salmonella oocysts and the Shigella oocysts, this has some gastrointestinal involvement, and there's going to be diarrhea, and it can affect other systems as well. The Salmonella has two species, Salmonella bongori, that's found in cold-blooded animals, and Salmonella enterica. And this has 6 subspecies. And you have 2,500 serotypes that reflect the source of the isolate. Typhoid fever. It's flagellated, survives outside the host, and is resistant to chemicals, bile, and dyes. And you see in 1986, you had an outbreak caused by contaminated pasteurized milk. Typhoid fever is caused by the serotype typhi, and you ingest the bacillus with food or water contaminated by feces. Carriers are asymptomatic, and the bacilli adhere to the small intestine and cause invasive diarrhea that can lead to septicemia. It can be treated with ciprofloxacin or ceftriaxone. And there's 2 vaccines. Shigella causes shigellosis. You're going to have fever, nausea, painful abdominal cramps, frequent defecation of a watery stool that has a lot of mucus and blood. It invades the villus of the large intestine, but it doesn't perforate the intestine or invade the blood. It enters your Peyer's patches, and that causes an inflammatory response, and there is an endotoxin and exotoxins. To treat it, you want to replace fluids, use the ciprofloxacin and the sulfatrimethoprim. Now, if your nephew gets gastroenteritis, after cleaning out his pet snake's aquarium, the most likely pathogen is Salmonella bongori. So there's another reason you don't want to mess with reptiles.